Como você aprendeu português tão rápido? Today, I'm going to tell you exactly how I learned Portuguese. But before I do, I want to remind you about the masterclass that's coming up that will help you if ever Australians look at you confused, like, que ela falou? Like they don't understand what you're saying. This masterclass might help you understand the key differences between Portuguese and English and why sometimes your English might sound strange or not so natural to Australians. I'd love to have you in the masterclass. The link is in the description and I hope to see you there. So, before I moved to Brazil, I had 2 weeks to learn Portuguese, as much as I could. My ex-boyfriend flew back to Brazil and I had 2 weeks to learn. So I did as much as I could. I downloaded Duolingo, I bought a little cheap course online, and I watched YouTube videos, and I got 4 online lessons with an online teacher. This was okay, but it wasn't too much. But it was enough so that when I arrived in Brazil, I could, from the first moment, already try to speak in Portuguese to my boyfriend's family. I would be like, obrigada, de nada, oi, bom dia, these things, very basic, but enough to already give me confidence that I'm learning, I'm on my way. But I want to tell you something else, something that really helped me, and I think it's a big factor. Below this, I always knew that I could learn Portuguese because I'd done it before. I went on an exchange program to France when I was 15. So I had already learnt French. I had learnt French in school. And you know how people say, like, it's quicker to learn your second language than your first? It really is. It took me much longer to learn French than to learn Portuguese. And it's really strange. I think that's a key factor. The fact that I had in my identity that I know how to learn a language, that I can do this. And then I think there's something that happens in your brain when you've learned a language already. It's like your brain already has the neurons or the connections, and it's just quicker. It's like learning a new skill versus returning to an old skill. Your brain already kind of knows a little bit what to do. So I knew I could do it. And I also really decided that I wanted to learn Portuguese. And I'm a very determined person. When I decide I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I decided I'm going to learn Portuguese. And do you know why, if I'm honest, I think was behind this? I wanted to be able to talk to my boyfriend's family. And I think I really wanted my boyfriend to look at me and say, wow, you're so intelligent. I think that was a big motivation for me. I really wanted him to see me like this. So there was part of me, my brain, that was like, I'm going to show you that I can do this. So I was very determined. And I think having this motivation in me meant that from the first moment, I listened very carefully. I listened to so much Portuguese. I'm so lucky that I lived in my boyfriend's house and his family didn't speak English, so I had Portuguese around me in my ears all the time. And I would pick up things. I'd pick up a water bottle and be like, como fala? And point to my water bottle, and they would say garrafa, and I would say garrafa, garrafa. So, and I was always looking and curious to find what's this, how do I say this? So I listened a lot and learned from listening. I remember going to bed every night in Brazil so tired, like a zombie. It's like my head was so full of all the new information, and I slept. I remember for the first 6 months, I slept something like 12 hours per night because my head was so tired from so much learning. So I slept a lot and I tried a lot. I tried to speak. And after 6 months, my visa finished and I had to go back to Australia. And I was worried about this. I thought, really, like my Portuguese, I'm going to lose everything I've learnt. I came back to Australia. I don't think I spoke hardly a word of Portuguese. Maybe a little bit to my boyfriend on the phone, but basically nothing. And what surprised me is that when I returned to Brazil, my Portuguese was actually better than when I left. I know this seems crazy, but I think a key thing for learning a language is you need to try really hard, se esforçar, like push yourself, do the best you can, and then rest. I think those are very important things because when you rest, it's like your brain can make the new neural pathways so that you can use the language. So it was all about this, for doing this consistently. Trying hard, resting, trying hard, resting, trying hard, resting, over and over and over and over and over. And the reason that I could be so consistent with learning Portuguese is not because I'm disciplined. It's because I didn't have a choice. I had a choice. I could have left. I could have come home. But I was living in Brazil. Many, many, many times I chose to hide in my room and not try and speak Portuguese. Probably every day. There was a period where I would hide and not want to speak Portuguese. But there was also a big part of the day that I would try. So I didn't have a choice. It wasn't like I was having to get home at night and say, I am going to study Portuguese now. I basically didn't really study while I was in Brazil. I didn't study grammar. I just learnt from practicing every day and speaking. So, yes, my consistency, the fact that consistency is super important. And I was able to achieve consistency because I had support. I had my boyfriend's family supporting me always, and my boyfriend. And I think sometimes that's the power of support, is that it helps you be consistent for a longer period of time than you having to choose every day, I'm going to study now. That's the power of community, and it's a real hack for learning languages. The next thing I did was that after this 6 months that I'd spent in Australia, I returned to Brazil, and about a month later, me and my boyfriend decided that we were not going to speak in English anymore. We had been speaking English a lot and I'd been getting a bit lazy to speak Portuguese, and we decided no more English. I was already speaking Portuguese with his family, but with him, it was a lot of English. And this was very, very, very hard for about 1 month. For 1 month, I could not have a proper conversation. I couldn't talk to my boyfriend, tell him how I was feeling. It was so hard. I felt so alone during this time that I couldn't speak to anyone properly. But then my Portuguese skyrocketed. It got so much better so quickly because there was no English. I didn't have any friends that spoke English. I was in São Paulo, quite far out in Guaraparanga, so I didn't have other people to speak English around me. I only had my family when I was on the phone to them in Australia. It was all Portuguese. So that was the best decision I made for my Portuguese, and it was very hard. It was out of my comfort zone, but I made that decision, and it was the best thing that I did. However, I want to talk about this, why this is so hard. Because there's a long period in there when you're learning that you just have to stay in silence and listen to other people talk and not really be able to contribute properly. You can contribute a little bit and you can try, but you're not able to. I think it took me 1 year before I made my first joke in Portuguese, and I was so happy to have made a joke. But it takes a long time. And there's something about learning a language that you just have to kind of tolerate the suffering for long enough that it stops being so bad. And it will. And I want to assure you right now that now I don't have any pain in me when I speak Portuguese, and I did for a long time. For a long time I was like, because of my Portuguese I have no friends. Because I can't speak Portuguese, I can't express who I am. I can't talk to people properly. For so long I just wanted so badly to have a good conversation with somebody, and I couldn't. And I would just have to sit in silence and listen to everybody else talking. I remember meeting people and that I thought were really cool, that I really wanted to be friends with, and just not being able to talk to them. And it's painful, it sucks, but there's a little bit of tolerance. You just have to kind of deal with it, and it will get better. Now, I don't feel any of this anymore. I'm so happy when I speak Portuguese. I love speaking Portuguese. I don't sit in silence and listen to other people talk. If there's Brazilians around, I can't wait to go talk to them and to speak in Portuguese. So this can pass, this difficulty of how hard it is. But yeah, if I can give you one tip from this, it's to think about how you can take kind of a bit of the choice out. It's really hard to learn English if you have to choose every day, I need to go talk to somebody down the street to practice my English, or I need to get home and study English. Discipline is great, but it's better if you have already organized your life so that English is a big part of your life and you don't have to choose every day to study English. It's just what you need to use in order to do life. The thing that's made the biggest difference, I've had many, many students say it to me, the thing that made the biggest difference is that when they got a new job where they spoke English. I know it's not possible for everybody, and if it's not possible for you, there are other ways to practice English, and I'm always here to support you. And I hope this episode brought you some joy, because that is the main goal of this channel. I want you to feel great here, and I want you to eventually just have fun speaking English and feel proud of how much you've achieved and your progress, and compare yourself with how you were 6 months ago and know that you're doing friggin' awesome. Don't forget about the masterclass. Oh, quase esqueceu, hein? Meu Mico de Semana. E a hora do Mico de Semana. This one's funny. So, we have 2 words in English. These are called phrasal verbs. They're when you have a verb and then a preposition afterwards. We have pass out, which is desmaiar, and pass away, which is morrer. So I have a student called Adriana, and she had plans to go meet a friend in the city one day. But her husband comes home, and she hasn't gone to meet her friend. So what she says to him is, she passed away. She passed away. And the poor husband got such a shock, thinking her friend had died. But no. What she meant to say was pass out. So she passed out and she couldn't come. That's the Mico de Semana. Se você tem mico, por favor, me manda lá no Insta. Eu vou amar ouvindo os seus micos. E não esquece do Masterclass. O link tá no bio. Beijões!